Okay, thank you. Is Anthony Lewis still in the lobby? Can we admit him if he's coming in? Do we wait for him all?
Carry on and,
Right.
and then.
Okay, so we're back in the open session. Agenda item number 5, budget requirement and council tax 2024-25. State of the council debate to consider the report of the chief executive. Councillor Andrew Barry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Legislation requires we set an integrated balanced budget through the medium-term financial plan for both revenue and capital plans for this authority, and this year it needs to be completed by the 11th of March. A provisional settlement from Welsh Government was announced on the 20th of December 2023, just 10 weeks ago in Ellis. Liam and the team are to be congratulated for the sheer volume of work they've had to get through to get us to this point. I will emphasise here, however, that the budget pressures do not stop here. In April, we'll see the construction of a financial roadmap to establish how we intend to balance the 25-26 financial year's budget. Obviously, the associated reports will be brought to scrutiny of full council to show progress. The settlement was initially set at 3.4%. Or an additional £4 million, and then an additional £500 was received on the 7th of February, taking our provisional local government settlement to 3.7% or £4.5 million. Did I say £500? £500. Well spotted, Clive. He's one up now, isn't he? Right. We have a budget requirement for the next financial year of 160.615 million for 2024-25. I'll bring members to section 11, page 14 of the professional opinion of the 151 officer. The proposed utilisation of earmarked reserves is at its maximum amount without risking financial sustainability of this authority. At Governance and Audit Committee on the 26th of February, the chair of the committee stressed the importance of heeding the advice of expert officers in these circumstances. On the 23rd of January 2024, Schools Budget Forum met and met the proposal to reduce schools funding was not approved. However, the methodology for that funding was approved. The detail of the individual schools' budget funding restrictions is detailed between pages 19 and 44 in Appendix 1. Council tax is proposed to be set at 8%. At a council tax band A, the increase equates to £1.88 per week, with 84% of the Merthyr properties being within bands A to C. Or put another way, over 8 out of 10 people in Merthyr are in bands A to C. The council tax equates to around 23% of our funding requirement of £160.615 million, as I stated. The revised revenue budget for 24-25 can be seen and summarised at the table at 9.1, taking into account the savings proposals outlined at section 6 and detailed within the tables on pages 9 and 10. The proposed utilisation of earmarked reserves outlined at section 7 and the proposed council tax increase outlined at section 8. Mr. Mayor, I'll now take you to the minimum reserve provision, revenue provision policy at 24-25, and it's dealt with at section 10. This relates to how we provide for the cost of our debt in relation to our borrowing to support our capital expenditure. As an authority, although we have only received an increase through our revenue grant of 3.7%, we have increased educational budget and social services budget by 4.5%. This and the previous independent administration has been prudent with our use of reserves over the past 6 years. We have used these reserves and replenished them whenever possible. Even last financial year, placing £1.5 million back into the budget reserve to protect the residents of this authority as best we could from the economic turmoil that has surrounded us now for so long. The burden of balancing the budget has put serious strain across our council services. And we've now come to the point where, having exhausted all options, must propose that increase in council tax of 8% to meet the shortfall. From registrars to education to help with pensioners, the ethos of cradle to grave support to the social fabric of our society through local government is now under threat. I'll go to the recommendations, Mr. Mayor. Because of my declaration of interest, I think it's prudent if we do recommendation 2.3 first, so I can withdraw, and I'll pick them up when I come back then, if that's okay. Lovely.
Okay, that's fine.
Thanks.
Okay, so Councillor Geraint-Thomas. Oh, Councillor Michelle Simmons.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At 2.3, the recommendation reads, the business case to consult on our approach to post-16 home to school transport at Appendix 2 be approved. I move, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Thomas.
I second the recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So are there any questions? Yes, Councillor David Jones, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's not a comment.
Questions we're on at the moment.
It's
Well,
a correction in the document. On page 404, under CLA residential placement services, the impact comment, so I think it needs to be amended or removed. Education unlikely to agree to this cost.
Thank you.
thank you for that. So Harris is making that adjustment, is she? And now we move on to any questions then, please. No, so are there any comments then, please? No comments?
Councillor Gibbs, are you for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. And that's carried, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So can someone check Councillors Barry and Thomas? So Councillor Barry, would you like to take us through the other recommendations?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the recommendations. Do you want me to go through them all as we did with the last one, and then you pick up the questions and comments? Yeah, easier.
Yeah, we'll do it the same as we did.
Okay. So 2.1, budget reduction of 1.988 million from individual schools budgets be approved. 2.2, the revised funding arrangements for the LRBs be approved. 2.4, the proposal to reduce the young carers contract, Appendix 4, be recommended to Council for approval. Be approved. 2.5, the proposal to reduce vacant staffing hours at T-Bargoed, Appendix 4, be approved. The 2.6, the proposal to remove vacant posts from within day services, Appendix 4, be approved. 2.7, the proposal to reduce trainee social worker posts from 3 to 2 at Appendix 4, be approved. 2.8, the proposal to reduce available social services apprenticeships by 1, Appendix 4, be approved. The proposal to change security arrangements at Gavartha Park, Appendix 8, be approved. 2.10, the business case introducing the SAB design engineer post at Appendix 5, be approved. 2.11, the business case introducing a street lighting electrician post, Appendix 6, be approved. 2.12, the business case to increase waste FPNs, Appendix 7, be approved. 2.13, the business case to reduce Contact magazine by 1 issue per year, Appendix 10, be approved. 2.14, the business case to remove Help for Pensioners scheme, Appendix 11, be approved. Now, I'm going to mention 2.20 and 2.21 next, because we want those business cases to come before the resolution of the council tax, in case there's any queries on those business cases, so that we might be able to adjust the case for council tax at the end. So I'll do 2.20, which is increasing Lifeline weekly charge by 40%. Note this includes the cost of the SIM card needed for digital switchover, as set out in the non-inflationary increases of fees and charges 24-25 council report presented on the 21st of February 2024. Be approved. 2021, increasing all cemetery fees by an additional 3% above inflation, as set out in the non-inflationary increases in fees and charges 24-25 council report presented on the 21st of February 2024, be approved. And we jump back then to 2.15. The summary of all officer-led decisions detailed within the report be noted. 2.16, the utilisation of £2 million worth of budget reserve be noted. 2.17, the council tax increase of 8% for 24-25 Band D of £1,974.61 for the County Borough Council be approved. 2.18, the budget requirement of 160.615 million for 24-25 net revenue budget be approved. 2.19, the minimum revenue provision statement for 24-25 as detailed at paragraph 10 be approved. And finally 2.22 then, the Chief Finance Officer's comments relating to the robustness of the estimates and adequacy of our reserves be noted. So I'll leave it at that point there, so we can pick it up in terms of individual.
Councillor Geraint-Thomas.
I second the recommendations, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So we'll do this as we did previously on the previous report and go through them one at a time. So 2.1, are there any questions? Councillor Darren Roberts.
Yeah, on this particular item, Mr. Mayor, can I request a recorded vote, please?
You can, yeah. If five people need to agree, is that correct? Yeah.
But can we just have a show of hands? Are there 5 people? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Any more questions? Councillor Jamie Scriven.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to clarify, was I right? I've read this very quickly. I'm right in understanding that it was originally 2.1 and we got down to that 1.9 figure. How did you get to that? What was the process in coming down to that figure? How was that taken by the school budget forum, and potentially what impact do we think that will have on the schools in the next financial year? Are we looking at being in a situation where we could have an accumulated deficit amongst those schools, or are we looking okay?
I'll take that, Councillor Scriven. The first part, when we set it originally at 2.1 million, and then there was additional funding found within the ISB, which we were able to put against that. So we were able to reduce the requests from schools. In answer to your second question, we don't know. We're currently doing the MTFPs of our schools, which will show that a significant number of our schools on paper will be in deficit, but it depends what mitigation they can take with redundancies to ensure that they actually float they set a balanced budget. They've got to do that by the end of May.
Okay. Well, thanks, Sue.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further questions? No. So any comments, please? Councillor Darren Roberts.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any cut in service will affect members of our community. However, cutting the school's budget doesn't fill me with confidence that we will give our children the best start in life as they develop and learn. This local authority has previously been in special measures, and I really fear that a continued cut in the education budget, we could go back to those sad days. Education is one of the political priorities, beg your pardon, of this Labour group. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor David Hughes.
Just like to say that I know the recommendation reduction of 1.988. They actually had a 4.5 increase school's budget had. So I know it reads that way, but they did actually have a 4.5 increase. And remember, we only had a 3.7 increase from the Welsh Government. So we actually put it up further than what the Welsh Government gave us.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Geraint Thomas.
Mr. Mayor, no one likes to take money out of the school's budget. You know, we want to give our children the best possible start in life as we can. It's the second year we've had to do this, but I think with a head of director, I should say, of educational services and the hard work that's gone on from her team, with the Raising Aspiration, Raising Standards programme, you know, we've had some real positive results this year with some real good ESTN inspections. So we are on the right track, I believe. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lisa Minton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just reiterating some of the points already made and echoing really what the Leader of the Opposition has also said. Nobody actually wants to make these budget reductions in any of these service areas, any of these portfolios, especially those in education. I think we need to be mindful that even Welsh Government's own education budget was cut by 3.3% this year themselves. So everybody is feeling the pinch, and obviously that inevitably impacts on us then and local government settlements as well. But as my colleague Councillor David Hughes has reiterated, we've actually invested more into schools despite there still being a cut. Not palatable, not easy, but let me remind everybody as well, when we've had teachers in scrutiny, and I'm talking head teachers, school governors, chairs of governors, I should say, and deputy heads, they have reiterated that they understand it's going to be challenging, but in any case, they will ensure that standards do not drop. And I think where we've seen reductions in budgets previously, what we have seen, however, is still some fantastic ESTN results and a supportive educational department to really bring about that within our schools. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Declan Salmon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Obviously, nobody wants to see the education budget cut. I've got grandchildren going to school here, and of course it is a worry. But if the leader of the Labour group and his colleagues could lobby Dawn Bowden as a minister and as our AM to do a little bit more for Merthyr and shout our cause a little bit higher. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Barry, if that was a comment, then that will close the debate. So did anybody else want to make a comment? Councillor Brent Carter.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't going to speak tonight. That was just for Scott, actually, because he did mention it to me on the way in. However, I just furiously scribbled down a few pages of notes, which I'm gonna go through, especially with some of the comments. Not as inflammatory tonight as normal from the independents, which is quite pleasing. However, I will refer back, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Barry talked about being prudent with finances over the years. I would probably put that more down to being lucky with settlements. We've received higher settlements. So that's something I'd look at. Mr. Mayor, once again, we find ourselves sat here tonight, having to go through the same process, listen to the same excuses about lateness of finances, etc., etc., etc. What saddens me is we are never ahead of the game. This can be down to various reasons. However, the biggest reason is the clear lack of political direction this independent group shows and has shown over the last 7 years. And previous Councillor Kevin O'Neill, Lisa Minton and Geraint Thomas. However, I would say things did improve under Councillor Minton when it showed that true collaborative working together could actually benefit the council and indeed the residents of Merthyr Tydfil. So Lisa, you don't need to come back at me for that one. Despite this, the clear, we need to make critical decisions. However, the independent members haven't done that for the last 7 years. I wonder why, really. It's probably down to the fact that they've got a deep-rooted desire to be loved by the public rather than anything else. However, that being said, independence, what does independence really mean? It's independent of thought and judgment. Declan smiling. Well, to be a people pleaser is probably what it really means. So it'll be interesting tonight to see what the voting patterns are here in this chamber. In terms of, sorry, Mr. Mayor, in terms of the actual point we're actually making, do this independent council really value the younger community, our future? Some will argue passionately that they do, but we sit here tonight with a real cut in terms of money. David Hughes, and if you want me to explain what my real terms I've had, it's a 2 million cut in real terms. You may talk about an increase, but it's a 2 million cut in terms. Councillor Mitten as well, did the heads in the school forum agree with the cuts? They may have been here nodding their heads, etc., but I do believe they voted against it. Correct me if I'm wrong. Unfortunately, Mr. Mayor, before anyone comes back to me, we haven't had a time to put an alternative budget together. As everything was last minute. You may laugh, you may mock, but these are facts. And I stated them a couple of weeks ago when the leader asked the same thing of me, of plans and opening offices up. I quite rightly know, like everybody else, that the offices have been inundated over the last couple of months, working furiously to keep this independent administration afloat. Mr. Mayor, I will leave it there at that point. All right. There's lots more I could say, but I'm going to keep my powder dry till later. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, Councillor Gareth Lewis, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I think it's important that we obviously take these cuts incredibly serious. It's important to highlight that almost £2 million in real terms cuts. It may not be a monetary cut, but there is indeed almost a £2 million cut in real terms to the school's budget. And this will inevitably have a negative impact on schools. Let's not forget these cuts are on top of last year's 1.9% reduction to the school budget. And pages 347 to 352 of the report outlines the concerns of head teachers and chairs of governors. These are not my concerns or that of the Labour group, but the concerns of those that have to deal with the reality of these cuts on a daily basis. For example, such comments are standards cannot be maintained as further cuts will result in job losses with question marks over the delivery of the required broad curriculum 3 to 16. Lots of interventions of our most vulnerable learners would be lost. Almost 100% certainty of redundancies resulting in staff shortages in relation to staff pupil ratios. Schools will probably have to reduce staffing and some provision in place, as well as reduction in resources available to pupils. And finally, one other comment to highlight, we cannot continually balance budgets without this having a negative effect on raising standards. And that is the stark reality, what these cuts are likely to do to our schools. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Lewis. Councillor Clive Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Lewis, excuse me, has referred to the comments on page 347, 4.5 pages of them from the schools, and that will tell you the real effects that they are definitely anticipating. And the facts are that by the end of the next financial year, it's likely that 80% of the schools in Merthyr Tydfil will be in deficit, coupled with the fact that every governing body will have to look at the cost particularly including staffing. So there will be staff reductions right across the board, teachers, LSAs, and other staff. How that equates to contributing to the RAS strategy, I really don't know. But the effects are stark, and they will affect pupils, staff, governing bodies.
Okay, thank you. Would anybody else like to comment before Councillor Andrew Barry closes the debate? No, no one is indicating so. Councillor Andrew Barry?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nobody, as everybody has said, nobody wants to do what we've got to do here. It does make me smile, mate. The guys making comments here, the people on the front benches, I don't know if they remember, but they're part of the Labour Party. We get our money from the Labour Party in Cardiff. Pointing fingers at us isn't going to change anything. Pointing fingers at the likes of Dawn Bowden and her representation at Welsh Government is going to make a difference. So I would recommend you listen to what Councillor Declan Salmon has said and make those approaches. We can only deal with what we have in front of us. 3.7 to 4.5, as Councillor Hughes pointed out. It's all we can do. We're not the only ones reducing finance going to schools. Police have withdrawn funding for police liaison between schools. SSC, the school's service children support, has been completely withdrawn from schools. What we're talking about is the erosion of public services. We haven't come here, no member in this chamber has come here to erode public services. Every member in this chamber, I don't care what tie they're wearing, has come here to support our communities. We find ourselves here making these decisions because the system we work under is broken. No two ways about it, it's broken. Until that system changes, we will always be sitting here with a reducing budget to try and justify what we can do. The difference between ourselves and Labour, we are prepared to make the difficult decisions. We will stand up and we will make those decisions because we can only make decisions with the finance that we have available to us. It's plain and it's simple. I could go into 20-mile-an-hour zones. I could go into the M4 bypass. I could go into Cardiff Wales Airport. There are a number of the things we could talk about, but I won't go down Councillor Carter's route. I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So that's a recorded vote we're taking now then, please.
Yes, so thank you, Mr. Mayor. What I will now do is call out the names of each councillor in alphabetical order, and then if you can just answer by telling me whether you are for the motion, abstaining, or whether you are against the motion. Councillor Andrew Barry. Councillor Brent Carter. Councillor Malcolm Colbran.
For.
Councillor Jeremy Davis. Councillor Lee Davis. Councillor Ernie Goldsworthy.
Against.
Councillor Kevin Gibbs.
Against.
Councillor David Hughes. Councillor David Isaac. Councillor Julia Jenkins. Councillor Claire Jones. Councillor Clive Jones. Councillor David Jones. Councillor Michelle Jones. Councillor Paula Layton. Councillor Gareth Lewis. Councillor Lisa Mitten. Councillor Gareth Richards. Councillor Darren Roberts. Councillor Declan Salmon. Councillor Jamie Scriven. Councillor Bill Smith. Councillor Michelle Simmons. Councillor Geraint Thomas. Councillor Ian Thomas. Councillor John Thomas. Councillor Scott Thomas. Councillor Clive Tovey. Councillor Louise Minette Vokes. and Councillor Anna Williams-Price. Now, Mr
Yes.
Mayor, that is 15 for and 15 against, so you have a casting vote. Which way will you vote?
Okay, my casting vote is 4.
Thank you. So that's carried.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next item, which is 2.2. Are there any questions on 2.2? No, no questions. Any comments on 2.2? No, so we'll go to a vote on that one then, please.
Councillor Kevin Gibbs, are you for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Brent Carter and Councillor Gareth Lewis? Chatting. And Councillor Scott Thomas, yeah, that's carried, Mr Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So we've already dealt with 2.3. So the next item is 2.4. Any questions, please? No, any comments on 2.4? No, so we'll go to a vote on that one then, please.
Councillor Kevin Gibbs, are you for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. That's carried, Mr Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Next item is 2.5. Any questions, please? No, any comments, please? No, so we'll vote on that.
Councillor Kevin Gibbs, are you for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Michelle Jones, Councillor Michelle Simmons. That's carried, Mr Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So 2.6, any questions? No, any comments? No, so we'll vote on that one, please.
Councillor Kevin Gibbs, are you for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Lee Davis. Thank you, that's carried.
Okay, thank you. 2.7, any questions? No questions, any comments? No, so we'll vote on that one, please.
Councillor Kevin Gibbs, are you for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. It's carried, Mr Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So 2.8, any questions? No, any comments on 2.8? No, so we'll vote on that, please.
Councillor Gibbs, are you for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. That's carried, Mr Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So 2.9, any questions? Councillor Clive Jones.
Yes, I've got a few questions on this, Mr Mayor. What was the evidence obtained to indicate that there was absolutely no requirement for the security service between Monday to Friday?
I'll ask Rob Barnett to come in and answer that.
Thank you, Councillor. Could you repeat that question, please? I didn't quite catch it.
Okay, what evidence was obtained to indicate that there was no requirement whatsoever for a security service in Cyfarthfa Park, the largest park in Merthyr Tydfil, Monday to Friday?
We're not saying that there is no requirement Monday to Friday. What we're saying is that the requirement for daytime security is reduced. We're not saying that there is no requirement for security, Councillor.
So there either is the requirement or not. You saying that when this decision was arrived at, there was no need for security during the daytime at all?
what we're saying is the risk during the daytime hours are reduced compared to nighttime when there is no public or council workers within the park. During the daytime, obviously you've got the public who report incidents to us, and also the park staff who work in the park at that time.
So begs the other question then, Mr. Mayor. If there's no security staff to contact Monday to Friday, who's the person the public going to contact in the absence of security?
If I can answer that, Councillor, again, it would be similar to what happens now. There is only a one-man guard in the park at present. For much of the time, he is based up in the depot. He's not public facing really. So what the public would normally do is either contact a member of staff, usually working on the castle frontage, or if it was a serious matter, they would call the police as they should.
The other question is in relation to the security of one rather large building smack in the middle of the Cyfarthfa Park, and that's called the Castle. There are plans for that, to spend a lot of money on it. What cameras have we got at the castle at the moment, and how many are there at the rear of the castle?
Currently, there is one castle camera at the rear, and I think there's one at the front on the car park. Now, during work to the Canolfan, the connection between that and the security lodge was severed, so that will have to be reinstated, or an alternative method of CCTV within the remaining elements of the building.
So following that answer, I don't know whether it's Alan Owen or yourself will answer this one. Because of the amount of expenditure that's planned on the castle in the next few years, if this suggestion is implemented on the 1st of April, what recourse have we got to cameras being there on the 1st of April when there is virtually, in our opinion, no one there to contact immediately?
Yeah, we currently, there's a piece of work going on about what type of camera coverage that we need all round the castle, and obviously that provision doesn't need to be viewed up in Cyfarthfa Park. It needs to be viewed 24 hours a day in our control room. So we're currently looking at the feasibility of that, Councillor Jones.
But in that respect, Mr. Mayor, that correct me if I'm wrong, those cameras are not going to be installed prior to the 1st of April.
Maybe.
Maybe. Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Darren Roberts.
Yeah, can I request a recorded vote on this one as well, please, Mr. Mayor?
You can, if 4 other people agree with you. Yes. Show of hands. Yep. That's carried. Okay. So, any further questions, Councillor Leeserman? Okay. Are there any questions before I bring Councillor Mitten in for a comment then? No. So.
No, okay, thank you.
Councillor Mitten?
Rob, with all due respect, I have to completely disagree with what you've said. As I've said, the visual aspect of the security guards during the day is very present. It's very visual, and it's reassuring to anybody walking in the park. And I did reiterate this in the workshops. And having been a victim of a very aggressive, violent attack in September of last year in the park whilst walking the dogs on my own by a gentleman and his wife, the first person I saw was Ian, who sadly is retired now. The second person was the security guard, and the security guard immediately confronted the couple and the gentleman who was toe-to-toe verbally aggressive with me and intimidated me so much I left the park in utter distress. And it was and that was daytime at 10:30 in the morning. And it was only through the support of Ian and our security guard that I have felt any reassurance to revisit that park. And let me tell you, it took me 2 months to go back. It was that bad. It took me 2 months to go back. So I want to put that on record. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Clive Jones.
And that, I think, really sums up the situation that we will be faced from the 1st of April. As local ward members, myself and Councillor Minette Vokes, because the whole of Kawartha Park is in our ward, we're the first port of call to be contacted if somebody's trying to get hold of somebody. And we usually pass on the details of the guard, because we know there's a security guard there who can hopefully deal with the situations. But these are occurring all the time. People are brazen nowadays. They will do things that we would never have thought of years ago in broad daylight. And as for contacting the police, I think somebody suggested, I think it was perhaps, was it Judith? Somebody suggested contacting the police. Good luck on that one. We have a very good PCSO who covers the whole of the ward. Sadly, she is leaving us next month. And trying to contact the police to get somebody there urgently is the most difficult task in the world most of the time. So I think on this one, the council are leaving themselves wide open on all fronts, but as well as situations that I didn't know about with Councillor Mitten. I think the castle itself will be left in a really an abandoned situation during the daytime, because believe you me, one of the weakest points is the rear of that building. And years ago, when I was on a security group representing the school over there, that camera most of the time was never working.
Thank you. Councillor Geraint Thomas.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I totally accept the comments made this evening and the questions that's been asked about the security at Kawartha Park. But I think we have to broaden our discussion on this, really. You know, what's the future for the park? We know the Kawartha Foundation are going to come in. We know we've got more community wardens coming on the board, and we know we've got extra CCTV. So I think this was just the start of a conversation of where, you know, security in the near future is going to go. And it's going to be, hopefully, you know, one of the best security systems that we could have, you know, possibly have. We've got a fantastic CCTV unit here in the Civic Centre. You know, like I said, the extra wardens, the extra staffing through the foundation, etc. So I think when there's a proper structure in place, and I'm hoping, Councillor Jones, that will be in the spring, early summer, we'll be covered.
Okay, Councillor Clive Tovey.
It was many years ago, but the wall provides good security for the park. I met someone that jumped over the wall late at night. He broke both his heel bones. He couldn't walk for months, and he's probably got a permanent disability to this day, probably. So the wall does provide some sort of security, to be honest.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Paula Layton.
Thank you. Just on Councillor Mitten's comments, and when we were in the discussions in regards to the security in the park, it was brought up around whether the security they needed to be in the day. I didn't hear anything back on that, and I still believe that needs to be done, and you know, maybe a switch around, because I've experienced things in the park in the day when I'm with the grandchildren, and it's not nice. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? No other comments. So it's a recorded vote then, please.
Yes, so This is a recorded vote, so again, I will call out people's names in alphabetical order and ask you just to say if you are for, abstaining or against. So Councillor Andrew Barry. Councillor Brent Carter. Councillor Malcolm Colbrand.
For.
Councillor Jeremy Davis. Councillor Lee Davis. Councillor Ernie Goldsworthy.
Against.
Councillor Kevin Gibbs.
Against.
Councillor David Hughes. Councillor David Isaacs. Councillor Julia Jenkins. Councillor Claire Jones. Councillor Clive Jones. Trying to count and I just lost count. I'm sorry. Councillor David Jones. Councillor Michelle Jones. Councillor Paula Leighton. Councillor Gareth Lewis. Councillor Lisa Mitten. Councillor Gareth Richards. Councillor Darren Roberts. Councillor Declan Salmon. Councillor Jamie Scriven. Councillor Bill Smith. Councillor Michelle Simmons. Councillor Geraint Thomas. Councillor Ian Thomas. Councillor John Thomas. Councillor Scott Thomas. Councillor Clive Tovey. Councillor Louise Minute-Vokes. And Councillor Anna Price-Williams. Williams-Price, I'm so sorry. Did I say it both times, didn't I? Thank you. And so that does not pass, that falls.
Okay, thank you. So Liam, do we need to recalculate the council tax on the basis of that?
Yes, we would, yes.
So do you want to take the break now and calculate that, or do you want to wait till
I
we've gone
think
through all the recommendations?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so there will be an effect on council tax as a result of that. So, but we'll move on now to 210. So, Councillor Carter, sorry, was that?
210.
Yeah.
It feels a little bit intimidating, Liam, in the fact that we need to recalculate council tax if one of these is thrown out. Surely there's other business cases which haven't been brought to the table tonight, which could identify savings, which could be looked at as well, apart from being beaten by this council tax banner. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, Councillor Carter. So you know, that's the last thing I want to do, but it's the stark realization that we're in. I've given a view on the appropriate levels of reserves that we could use, and it's the maximum within the report.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about reserves. I'm talking about those other business cases which were taken out previously.
But this is the administration's budget, and those business cases are not in it. So that's where it leaves us as officers.
Okay, that's disappointing. It's disappointing answers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to 210 then, please.
Should be other options there.
Any questions on 210? No, any comments on 210? No, so we'll go to a vote then, please.
Councillor Kevin Gibbs, are you for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Scriven? Thank you, that's carried.
Thank you. So 211, any questions? No, any comments, please? No, so we'll vote on the 211, please.
Councillor Kevin Gibbs, are you for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Scott Thomas? And that's carried, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So 212, any questions? No questions, any comments on 212? No, so we'll go to a vote, please.
Councillor Gibbs, are you for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Salmon? It's all right. That's carried, Mr Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So 213, any questions, please? No, any comments on 213? No, so that's a vote then, please.
Councillor Gibbs, are you for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. And that's carried, Mr Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So 214, any questions? No, any comments on 214? Councillor Alan Williams-Price.
Thank you. On this instance, I would like to draw residents' attention to the narrative contained within the business case that although this particular type of support is removed, there is other types of support which could be appropriate for pensioners. And I would encourage anybody who's struggling with the cost of living crisis, whether they are pensioners or of working age, to reach out to the local Citizens Advice Bureau or to the council themselves to see what support is available.
Okay, thank you. That's an excellent point. Thank you. Are there any further comments on that? No, so we'll vote on that, please.
And Councillor Gibbs, are you for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. And that's carried, Mr Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So we're now moving on to 220. So are there any questions on 220? No, any comments on 220? No, so we'll vote on that, please.
Councillor Kevin Gibbs, are you for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Paula Layton, please. Thank you, that's carried.
Thank you. So 2.21, any questions? No, no questions. Any comments, please? Councillor Jamie Scriven.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know I brought this up previously when we've discussed this, but in my opinion, this is one of those areas where, for me, I think we need to be protecting our residents that are going through those difficult times of bereavement. Those additional costs can be the things that tip certain people over the edge when they're dealing with these difficult items within their life. And I know Rob was great in getting back to me on some of the questions I've had and outlining the rationale behind things in terms of how other authorities are moving up percentage-wise with their costs when it comes to this. But I would just say I would much rather this be one of those areas where we support our residents rather than putting that additional cost on when they're going through a difficult time in general, the cost of living. I would really hope this is something that we wouldn't have put on top of our residents.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments on this item? No, so we'll vote on that, please.
And Councillor Gibbs, are you for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Claire Jones, Councillor Paula Layton, thank you. That's carried, Mr Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So if I follow correctly, we're going back to 2.15 now. It is 2.15, yes, yeah. So any questions on 2.15? No, any comments, please? No, so we'll vote on that, please.
Councillor Gibbs, are you for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. And that's carried, Mr Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So 2.16, any questions? Councillor Anna Williams-Price.
Thank you. Councillor Barry, in view of the low level of reserves that we currently face, can you advise what is your assessment of the long-term financial sustainability of Merthyr Tydfil County Borough Council? And do you share my concern that a medium-term financial plan outlining the predicted deficit in 25-26 and 26-27 is not available to members before voting on this budget?
Thanks, Anna. So in terms of sustainability, the direction of travel for all settlements, for every authority, is in the wrong direction. Diminishing amounts of finance coming down the line every year. Smaller public sector is where we're going. In terms of our reserves, we currently have 5.7 million in our general reserve. As our budget requirement grows, we need to replenish that. On current forecast, we'll probably need to put about £250,000 into our general reserve to fall within our reserve policy. In terms of our earmarked reserves are purposed and time-bound for future planning. If we start taking money out of our earmarked reserves, it seriously affects the future developments within this authority. So hence our 151 officer stance. Our budget reserve has gone from 4.3 million down to 2 million if this budget goes through in the way we think it's going to go through. Two major issues popping up in the next 12 months, whether that be we don't get teachers' pensions supported, or we get some social services increases, and that 2 million will be gone as well. So our budget reserve has gone. We've got provisions which we put there through instruction by Wales Audit, and we have unusable reserves which are placed there which aren't ours. Okay, so we have no say on when that's used. So yeah, we're on the wire as a 151 officer as described in workshops. He's been to your group meetings. You've seen it in the papers. We have been absolutely clear where we are. You know, and have been told clearly within this chamber tonight again, that whatever decisions you make, they will be going on council tax. Direction of travel, in-year savings. I briefed Councillor Carter on our other areas of concern where we think we can make savings, substantial savings. But they're the savings you can't make overnight. The long-term investment savings that is going to take, you've seen, for example, with our the result we had when we put the premiums on and we invested last year in our officer within revenues to look after our premiums that we're putting on. That paid dividends of over £400,000. So when you invest in the correct areas, when you improve the services to the extent we know the services can be improved, we can make in-year savings. The job we've got of setting the budget starts in April, where we outline, as I said within the report, where we outline a roadmap to how the savings are going to be made, because we can't come here again and talk about the savings we're talking about. We'll do this once. We can only use the reserves once, to quote Gareth Chapman, which pains me. There we are. Once they are gone, they are gone. So we have to take a different approach, and we'll take a different approach by a matrix that I've discussed with both Ellis and Liam in terms of searching out on the current operation that we have, where we can make savings, where we can make changes to become a true and a lean organisation. It'll take investment, but those investments, as with our revenues and benefits payments on the premiums, I'm sure will pay off. So we've got a very difficult 12 months in front of us. If there's more greater investment in public sector, then the pressure will be off somewhat. But at the moment, where we sit tonight, difficult decisions have got to be made because we've got no alternative. We've got no other wriggle room here. So that's where we find ourselves. I think with the changes we make, we'll be okay. But it's going to be a very difficult journey. Does that answer your question on that?
Can I just ask, there was two, if that's okay. So the second part of that was that members don't have available to them tonight a medium-term financial plan, which was provided last year,
Yeah.
so we can see the longer-term impact of decisions that are being made tonight.
Yeah. The position economically is so variable. A medium-term financial plan wouldn't have meant anything. We've got too many things to do. There are too many variables in the economy. Politically, who knows what's going to happen next? We can't predict if there's money coming down the line from Westminster. We can't predict what Welsh Government are going to do. So it would be finger in the air. When things are more stable, when the economy is more stable, the political environment is more stable, then we can say with confidence, with more confidence, that the medium-term financial plan would mean something. This time, of all times, we don't know. Because although, for example, inflation has fallen, we don't know if it's going to get down to the Bank of England's target of 2%. The world is too volatile for us to make any solid predictions at the moment. And that's why you haven't had it this year. All we have is what's in front of us, the facts that are in front of us. And that's all we can do.
Okay. Thank you. Any further questions, please? Sorry, Liam would like to come in there.
Yeah, just to answer Councillor Williams-Price's question as well. So we will be bringing that medium-term financial plan to the March committee. Picking up on Councillor Barry's points, there will be assumptions built in there, and we'll have different level of confidence on a lot of those assumptions, given the economic turmoil that we're seeing at the moment. But given the substantial amount of changes that have gone through the revenue budget this year, we didn't feel that we would be able to provide you with that assurance and the validity of those figures, which is why we'll bring it to the March council meeting to allow you to have more confidence in what we're presenting, albeit there will be some assumptions made within that MTFP as well.
Okay. So any further questions? Councillor David Jones.
Mayor. In 2022, Councillor Barry waxed lyrical about the council being the best financial position that we've been in for years. And I believe the figure was circa £20 million in reserves. Where's that money gone?
I didn't catch the question, sorry.
In 2022,
Yeah.
you waxed lyrical about the council being in the best position it has been in almost forever.
Yeah.
And I believe the figure that you suggested was £20 million in earmarked reserves.
Yeah.
Where has that money gone?
Hasn't gone anywhere. We've got in total we've got £29 million in reserves. As I outlined earlier, the reserves cover different pockets of money. The one you need to concentrate on currently is the budget reserve, and have an eye on the general reserve. The general reserve needs to be replenished by probably around £250,000 next year to keep up with our budget requirement and keep us within our policy of 3.5 to 4%. Our budget reserve was at 4.3%. We're supporting all our spending by 2.3 million, circa 2.3 million, which means we've got £2 million left in the budget reserve. So we've still got that. And in terms of best position for decades, I think was the quote, they were. And then Welsh Government pulled the rug.
Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? No comments then, please. Councillor Brent-Carter.
Yeah, it'd be remiss of me not to comment on this. Councillor Barry, yes, I did meet with you 2 weeks ago, I might add, mind, for you to update me. 2 weeks ago, we met up by phone. I do appreciate it, but come on, it should have been done months and months ago, 6 months ago, to keep me abreast of the situation, as you like to describe it, being the shadow portfolio member. 2 weeks is not a great deal of time. I've sat through workshops, you're dead right, group meetings, you're dead right, with Liam, Ellis, Arlen, on several occasions, too often to count over the last couple of weeks. And I've also been there as well, where the figure of 1.5 million of reserves was a maximum we were going to use. Lo and behold, it's up to 2 million, because the Cabinet have taken business cases out of the budget. So we're using 500,000 more than we should have been using initially. So it beggars belief. And for me, Councillor Barry, you are part of the problem and the Cabinet are part of the problem, but yet you're pushing it over to something else. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Darren Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Going back to Councillor Barry's comment about Welsh Government pulling the rug. Welsh Government may provide the bulk of the money that this local authority receives. However, it's purely down to this local authority how it chooses to spend that money, a political choice made by an out-of-touch independent administration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Geraint Thomas.
We are using reserves to balance the budget alongside the council tax at 8%. But earlier on this evening, the Labour group were willing to put £2 million back into that budget, which would have meant another 2% on top of council tax for the residents of Merthyr Tydfil. Think about that one.
Councillor Clive Jones.
Mr. Mayor, it was mentioned earlier by Councillor Declan Salmon that it seems to be directly the problem completely at the Welsh Government and the local MS. Can I remind everyone that the devolved administrations get their money from the UK government, and this Conservative administration over the last 14 years has refused to negotiate the Barnett formula. And that is the key, one of the main keys to ensuring that administrations receive the proper monies that they deserve.
Councillor David Hughes.
I find myself agreeing with Councillor Jones, where the bond formula isn't correct. It's correct there. However, decisions made by Welsh Government on the 20 miles an hour zone, the extra AMs, the relief road around Cardiff,
Can I remind members that we do need to be talking about the content of this particular recommendation? I think we are.
He said, I'm just relaying to him, he said it's only to do with one part, and I agree with him. But there are other indications that I'm just outlining them, so it's only fair that he was allowed to outline them.
I think we've made those points now, Councillor Hughes. I think where we are now is we need to be considering the use of the budget reserve. So any more comments, if they need to be about the use of the budget reserve, and then we'll need to end the debate.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you. So are there any more comments before we go to a vote? Councillor Gibbs.
No, I was going to make a comment, but then realised I need to ask a question, but I can't do that now, so don't worry about me.
Can you phrase your? No, you can't. So we'll have to go to a vote then, please.
So, Councillor Gibbs, are you for, against, or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. And that's carried, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So before we go on to 2.17, I think Liam needs to give us an update.
Yes, given the proposal wasn't carried around Cyfarth for park security, we will need to take a short break to determine what the impact of that would be.
Okay, Councillor Jones, do you want to?
Could you tell all the members here the amount of money that you're talking about? Because
Yeah, so it's £70,000, but it does throw the budget out of balance currently.
Yeah.
So that money needs to be found.
Okay, so we're going to take a short adjournment.
Yes.
Yeah. Call now, 10 minutes, call now.
Leaders of both groups be available in case we need to talk to you in a moment.
Okay, so thank you. So we're adjourned for a few minutes while we're discussing this. Okay, so everybody back? So who? Okay. Thank you, everyone. So we'll reconvene the meeting now. And I think Liam has got something to say to start.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks everyone for bearing with us. So the impact of removing the Cyfarthfa Park savings would mean an 8.2% increase in council tax would be required. Given the relatively small nature of the saving, I am going to propose an amendment to the report to include an additional line in the revenue budget for £70,000, which would need to be found in year savings, with a proposal on this to be brought to the April committee meeting be approved.
Okay, so are there any questions on that?
I think we need to move the 2.17 subject to that amendment.
Okay, yeah, so 2.17 subject to that amendment?
So this sits under 8.17. An amendment to that, is that what you're saying?
2.1.
Sorry, 2.17. Yeah?
Yes, that's right, yes.
So put this on, just so that everybody's clear. Councillor Barry will now move recommendation 2.17, and that will be including the amendment that Liam has just read. Is everybody clear about that?
I'll read it in its entirety then, yeah?
Just a second, Councillor Roberts.
I was under the impression it was an additional amendment, not part of 217.
I'm not sure it makes. No, it doesn't really make a great deal of difference how we do it.
Do you want to make it 8.23 then?
2.23.
What's this 8 coming from? 2.23.
Yeah, can do that.
Yeah, okay, we can do that.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're still on 2.17
No,
in that case, are we?
I think we would need to agree 2.23 before reverting back to 2.17.
Right, okay, so we're taking 2.23 next then. So the other, and Councillor Barry's moved that.
Right.
Is there a seconder for that?
I haven't read it.
Let me read it.
Oh, sorry.
So 2.23 will be to an additional line in the revenue budget for £70,000 of in-year savings, with a proposal on this to be brought to the April 2024 meeting to be approved.
Okay, thank you. Seconder?
I second that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions? No? Any comments? Councillor Brent Carter.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm glad common sense has prevailed again tonight for the second time. And I'm glad you took my advice. Long may it continue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments? No, so we're taking a vote on 2.23 then, please.
Councillor Kevin Gibbs, are you for, against, or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Tovey, please. Thank you. That's carried, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So now we're on 2.17, is that correct? Yeah, so 2.17, are there any questions on 2.17? Councillor Darren Roberts.
Yeah, I'd like to request a recorded vote on this one as well, please, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Show of hands, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So any other questions on 2.17? No, any comments then, please? Councillor Anna Williams-Price.
Thank you. I remain concerned that members are being asked to vote on a budget and its subsequent council tax implications without understanding the longer term impact of these decisions. The medium-term financial plan, as stated, will not be available to councillors until March after the budget setting period has passed. It is clear that future deficits will be significant, but specific figures are unavailable. What we do know from this report is that reserves are increasingly close to the minimum needed under a corporate policy, and it is a near certainty that future deficits will need to be filled by even deeper cuts and increasingly larger council tax rises. I do not believe that this is sustainable. There has been much discussion in this chamber on the role of Welsh Government and UK Government in ensuring funding comes into local authorities. The need for funding local government has been heard and understood by Welsh Government. They have prioritised local government funding to protect schools, social services and other services on which our residents rely. However, the need for funding for our public services was only recognised by the UK Government once they faced revolt from their own Tory MPs. As soon as that money became available to Welsh Government, the consequential funding was passed on, resulting in an additional 14 million to support revenue support grants across Wales. However, I'm sure residents know that I was not elected to scrutinise Welsh Government or UK Government, but to scrutinise the decision of the Cabinet here, those who make decisions which impact directly on the day-to-day lives of the people in Merthyr Tydfil. I do not believe that the current makeup of the Council is one that is best served the people of Merthyr Tydfil, particularly with the decision to reduce the size of the Council from 33 to 30. The political balance is too fragile and not conducive to long-term decision-making, which will be needed to secure the financial stability of Merthyr Tydfil. However, I will continue to scrutinise and challenge the decisions made by this Cabinet on behalf of the residents of Abercanid, Pentre and Troedrew, and on behalf of all residents in Merthyr Tydfil.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor, oh no, Councillor Barry, you proposed it. So are there any comments before Councillor Barry? Councillor Mitten.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's just on reflection of what my colleague has just said in previous comments. I think there is a time and a place to recognise the austerity measures that were mentioned earlier, and we have faced 14 years of austerity measures. But I think even at local government, we have to recognise the impact of fiscal investment in Wales and the impact of what the devolved nations get. And in that, doing so, recognise that effective collaboration is important. And by mentioning that, a lot has been said about, you know, our MSs and things like that as well. But we really must work together to have a stronger voice, to talk about what Councillor David Hughes mentioned earlier with regards to the outdated Barnett formula, and to address those issues, to call upon UK Government really to provide greater fiscal flexibilities for Welsh Government, because in doing so, then that is in the interests of effective budget management, enabling greater investment into the local authorities, which should then support us in not having to make some of these really hard decisions. So I think it is important to recognise that. And at local government level, you know, we do need to have that strong voice. And Councillor Carter mentioned earlier about collaboration. This is a time where we can have a strong voice together and call upon those changes, because undoubtedly in the end they will help us. But it is important to recognise that we can only do what we can with the cards that we are dealt, the same as, in fairness, Welsh Government with the cards that they are dealt from Westminster. And so I think it's important to recognise that at all levels and not just at the higher ones. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? No, I've got a comment then before Councillor Barry closes the debate, which is responsibility for the situation this council and other local authorities across Wales find themselves in lies firmly at the door of Welsh Government. Merthyr Tydfil has been financially prudent over the years, but we still find ourselves in a precarious position. The system is broken. We need a national debate on what local government is for and how it's funded. We need long-term settlements so we can plan ahead, and we need more teachers and NH staff, not more members of the Senedd. This is not a situation that any of us want to be in, and I acknowledge the hard work and dedication of Liam and his team in preparing this budget. I've listened to advice from the monitoring officer and the chief executive and from Liam, but we all need to speak and vote according to our conscience. And with that in mind, I can't support the council tax rise of 8%. So tonight I'll be abstaining. Thank you. Councillor Andrew Barry to close the debate then, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, so just want to pick Anna up on something she said, because she hasn't included the whole picture. Deeper cuts and council tax rises. I've explained about in-year savings. We've just made an amendment on that very thing. in-year savings is the thing that's going to work for us. To just exclude that in your comments and just say we're going to be deeper cuts in council tax isn't correct. They're in-year savings, and that's included in my amendment. And I'd just like to support what some of my colleagues have said in terms of where the the blame lies. It's broken. Absolutely what you said, Mr. Mayor, is the system is broken. Until we see major change, long-term investment, we were given 10 weeks to set this budget. And the work that Ellis, Liam and the team has done has been fantastic, in fairness. But 10 weeks to set a budget of £160 million. It's a ridiculous ask. The system doesn't work. And how long we can perpetuate this nonsense is we're running out of time. We've had 114, Section 114s being issued throughout England. At some point in Wales, there'll be 114 action. And it's perhaps only then Welsh Government will step up. But we're not in a good position. We're not in a good position because of anything this authority has done. We're in this position because of what's happening in Cardiff and, yes, what's happening in Westminster. But until that attitude changes, we're left with what we're left with. And we've got nowhere else to go. And that's the reality of this budget tonight. As I said earlier, nobody wants to be making these decisions, but we have to make the decisions to ensure that this council carries on. If you want to stop the council carrying on, then we vote against the budget. If you stop this budget going through, we're in big trouble. And all the very thing that you were trying to say, that members in this room are trying to say they want to avoid, will be perpetuated by the fact that you don't put this budget through. Ridiculous argument. This budget has got to go through, and that's it. Without the budget going through, we pack up and go home. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So on that note, we'll go to a vote then, please.
Yes, so as we've done previously, I will call out the names of each councillor and you can tell me whether you are for, whether you are abstaining or whether you are against the motion. Councillor Andrew Barry. Councillor Brent Carter. Councillor Malcolm Colbrand.
Abstain.
Councillor Jeremy Davis. Councillor Lee Davis. Councillor Ernie Goldsworthy. Councillor Kevin Gibbs.
Against.
Councillor David Hughes. Councillor David Isaac. Councillor Julia Jenkins. Councillor Claire Jones. Councillor Clive Jones. Councillor David Jones. Councillor Michelle Jones. Councillor Paula Layton. Councillor Gareth Lewis. Councillor Lisa Mitten. Councillor Gareth Richards. Councillor Darren Roberts. Councillor Declan Salmon. Councillor Jamie Scriven. Councillor Bill Smith. Councillor Michelle Simmons. Councillor Geraint Thomas. Councillor Ian Thomas. Councillor John Thomas. Councillor Scott Thomas. Councillor Clive Tivy. Councillor Louise Minette-Vokes. And Councillor Anna Williams-Price.
So that's 14-14 and 2 abstentions.
Yes, so it's 14-14 and 2 abstentions. Mr. Mayor, are you going to exercise your casting vote?
No, I'm not. I'm still abstaining.
And therefore, we do not pass the budget.
I'll hand over to the monitoring officer to explain what's happening now.
Right, okay. Well, the situation you have put the council in is that we have to, by law, set the council tax, and you have to do that by the 11th of March. I think the only proposal we can put to you is that you have a further meeting next week on the 6th of March, and we will have to see what other proposals can be put before you at that point.
Okay, thank you. Is there not provision for us to have further discussions tonight or have a meeting tomorrow?
No, we have no alternative proposal to put for you tonight. do you mean in this chamber?
Yes.
I don't know what you would be discussing if you had a further discussion tonight. There's no alternative available to you. You voted down the alternative that we had. I don't know what other discussions we could have in chamber tonight.
Okay, so this meeting is concluded. We're not discussing the rest of the reports and recommendations, and we're
No,
coming
so-
back on the 6th of March.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you all for attending. Thank you all for attending tonight. Next.